yet. Very diligent with being highly visible with our law enforcement officers and with our airport staff to let everyone know, that the traveling public, that they can fly safely out of Palm Springs. And it's been very effective. The whole team is working together, and the communications that we've set up with the TSA and the airlines over the last year and a half has been very beneficial to everyone.
I would just a side point out in conversation with Tom. They are very pleased with the machines downstairs. They're not having the failure rates they were having around the country. We've got a better generation of those, so that has kept the baggage moving, and that's really important.
Yes.
Ken?
What's the typical longest wait time you have now during the morning rush, for example?
Well, if you were here on the 26th, or actually 2 days ago, the line actually went all the way down to the baggage claim area and came back up. But I was going to update you a little bit on some of our holiday traffic. And additionally, that's one of the things that the design team is looking at on the center lobby and the checkpoint, how that's going to either expand where it is or possibly push out. So we're working on trying to correct those issues. We're working with the TSA. Generally around 15 minutes, and that would be a heavy day. And, on a light day, 5 minutes.
I'm flying out of here in a couple of days.
Oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Probably no more than 5 minutes.
How's the parking lots faring?
Well, since you brought it up, we parked 1,014 cars on Christmas in 893 spaces in the main lot. Don't ask us how we did that, but we did. We also had 234 in our overflow lot. Our peak day was the 26th. We had about 3,800 passengers go through the checkpoint that day. The load factors were all very high for all the carriers. Even the rental cars did well. Hertz rented about 300 cars on the 26th. And Anton and Paradis both report that their business is up about 10% over last year as well. So we're seeing progress, and a lot due to the efforts of our advertising program and getting our infrastructure in place in order to handle all that.
It's very positive. If you look at the numbers that we're getting, even with the Thanksgiving being all into November this year, still the numbers are very good. So that's good. Robert?
Question on the new requirement to photograph and fingerprint incoming at an international airport. Are we being involved in that now or some point in the future?
Possibly some point in the future. Primarily the visit program is occurring at larger hub international type airports. At this point, we have not received a lot of information on other than that there is potential in the future that we will implement a system similar to that.
What if one of our executive planes bring in a deal? How would we handle that now?
Well, that's a separate regulation in
What
terms
is?
of how they handle general aviation. And that's one of the things the TSA is probably going to be focusing closer on this year because they've been very focused on commercial aviation.
Thank you.
If
Is the immigration office, what's the status of that now? Customs?
Customs is gone through its final design review after about 3 iterations to them of various plans and specs. I got the call yesterday that they are going to approve the plan and design so that we can put it out and advertise it for bid. I'm hoping to have that done here as soon as I get letter in hand from the port director verifying that within the next couple of weeks, and then you have to advertise it 30 days from there. So I expect to see construction starting probably mid to late February on the customs half of that. Signature is also going before the council in this next council meeting for their new agreement, which basically launches everything at that point for their new facility as well. And then we will be working with them closely so that they'll continue along with the design. And now that Jeff's here, he'll be working with us very closely on all the construction plans.
Ken?
I would assume, since our commercial flights come from Canada and they do customs and immigration in Canada, if
That's
they're going to do
correct.
fingerprinting, we do it up there.
That's correct. The pre-cleared Vancouver flight.
Right.
if those procedures are in place there, that's where it would occur.
Bob?
Do I understand, we're not doing any fingerprinting now?
We are not following the same
Let me know.
procedures that you've been hearing about in the news at this point. However, it doesn't mean that eventually we would not go with
But
that.
we are still maintaining, complying with
Yes,
the
absolutely.
increased, because on September 11th, the terrorists initiated their flight, some of them,
Yes.
at a small airport in Connecticut.
Right,
So
right. This
we're
is the
not
beginning
lax,
of a
so-
larger program, the U.S.
Okay.
Visit Program, that eventually I think we will also be more involved with through both the Department of Homeland Security and TSA and U.S. Customs.
Do you think this will change when President Dean takes over?
They don't have to comment. Edit start, are you through, Barry?
Actually, Richard has an airport marking, and then I have other item, and
Okay.
I don't know if Mike.
Well, I passed a couple of things out. In terms of air service development, we did meet with Alaska and Horizon Airlines 2 weeks ago before this meeting to have discussions over initiating flight service out of Oakland International Airport. I think the discussions were very positive and very interested on their parts in terms of looking at that. Of course, if we were to achieve that, we would then cover the entire Bay Area, which of course is our number 2 market for us. So we look to hear something soon on that meeting and see what results we get, but certainly it keeps our name on the tote board with them as to what we do in the future. What I'm handing out to you here is a quick little update item for the commission on the survey work that we've done as part of the Airport Commission's adopted PSP customer care program that you all adopted last year. This was the first part that was guaranteed back to you. We have done 800 surveys of various passengers that travel through this airport, and this is some of the results of that survey work, which we will utilize in working with Mr. Dwayne Knapp, who presented the brand study here and part of the Valley's overall brand program and where the airport falls in place with that. We are still working with Mr. Knapp to finalize a couple of things on the program. And in doing so, I ran across a very interesting article in Airline Business that talks about the power of airport branding. It is just for your perusal when you get a moment. We can perhaps talk about it at the next meeting when the brand study is put on the agenda for the Airport Commission next time around. But all of this is folding together very nicely to help bring about a true customer service type program and perhaps just refresher course for those involved in interacting with our public here. And, the commission could perhaps take a look at the documents and then we could perhaps discuss them at the next meeting when you've had more time to look at them.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Mike, did you have something?
Yes, just one other item. Many of you probably saw the last council meeting, or you heard about the last council meeting, where unfortunately the airport use and agreement with the airlines did not pass. One of the concerns was the operating restriction that was brought up by several of the council members. They would like for us to have a series of public information forums where we meet with the citizens of Palm Springs and let them know what that entails in terms of the operating restrictions that are no longer enforceable due to the Aviation Noise and Capacity Act, and the fact that we do not have the ability through a Part 161 program to enforce any type of curfew. So we will be setting up some meetings with the public to educate them, to let them know that these operating restrictions, while they're going away, were really never enforceable by the airport, and that we do not expect any drastic changes in air service. The only changes that may occur may be earlier flights so they can connect to other banks throughout the system, and that's primarily what we'll see. We don't expect any large 747 type operations coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning. But this agreement's very important to the airport, as you know. It's one of the things that we want to educate the public with as well in terms of our air service development And so we will keep you informed of when those public workshops are set up, and I'm sure the new director will also be a part of that when he gets here.
Yeah, it's too bad because we wanted that on track. We didn't want to have that agreement unwind and then turn it over to the lawyers for the next 6 years to put it back together, so.
Exactly, that's why we were staying very close to this, because the agreement does expire in June, and so we're going to try to get these things rolling as soon as possible, and we'll advertise it in the Desert Sun and let everyone know, and we'll probably have the meeting over at the council chambers so that we can fill the room with citizens who are concerned about
I
this.
have no problem involving the citizens. I think it was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, but it's not going to be harmful except for the time frame is what I worry about. Larry?
Well, why wouldn't the council have approved the agreement subject to those conditions of having the public hearings?
It was late in the evening, and I don't think anybody thought it through very, I say that on record, thought it through very carefully. It just sort of happened. And rather than say, oh, well, here's the solution, I think they just said, could you just get the
Well,
public
would
informed?
we, I say we collectively, but would we go back and suggest something like that
It's-
so you don't unwind this agreement?
Well, our plan is to try to get these educational forums set up as quickly as possible so that we can go back to the council as quickly as possible to indicate that we have educated the public.
We're okay as long as we get this before June, is that?
That's the goal, but you know, as Alan had mentioned before, it takes the airlines a few months to go through their process as well to get their signatures on the agreement, and hopefully that, you know, we have already informed the Airline Affairs Committee that this has occurred, and they're aware that what we're doing to resolve it. So at this point, we don't expect any drastic changes from this.
And the staff that sits before you did do the educational forums related to the master plan and things like that. So we're going to address the issue, get it resolved, as Barry said, as quickly as possible and not leave it hanging out there. And on a good note, as Chuck mentioned, instead of turning it over to the attorneys to spend 6 months on, staff costs you significantly less money than the attorneys do, so.
And less hassle.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Is this our new council's friendliness towards business?
I don't know. It was something they wanted the public to know about, and you know, we fit all the rules. We've done all the studies, the noise studies, ad infinitum. We are compliant as you can be. However, they felt that the public ought to have a moment of understanding. So this is kind of a reaction to maybe not a well thought out moment. Ken?
What's the downside if it doesn't get signed by June?
Well, the downside is we won't have an operating agreement with the airlines, and that operating agreement allows us to collect rates and charges through them to help run the airport.
Oh, so it is for business friendly to the airline.
Kind of a whole revenue thing
It's
would happen.
very, very important that we have an airport use agreement with our carriers.
Do you think they would work on an interim basis?
Yes, I think they would, but it does create hassle for the staff in terms of how we go about charging them and how we maintain our existing structures in terms of the way the revenue flows to the airport.
So your next meeting is tomorrow?
Our next meeting will be soon.
I imagine.
I assume the draft copies of it are already in the hands of the airlines to review. There's no like
Oh, yes, they have the copy, absolutely. They have, that's the final copy we agreed to.
I think Barry, if things go well, Barry can get this on track and get it through there. I think most of them will sign by that time. If we lose a signature and don't get it right away, we'll just have to take it when we get it. It's
Chuck,
gonna
would
a
there be
little chaos, but-
any advantage to moving this along if this group submitted a resolution to the council suggesting certain steps, or would they feel that that's, or what do you think? I
Well,
mean,
our job is to keep the council informed. I don't have a real problem with that.
They could
I
inform
think-
them, we could inform them of our
I think we need to
opinion.
tell them that it's important that this.
They've ignored our opinion so far on this.
Maybe we could explain to them this could cost us money.
I think the council's aware of that. I think their primary concern is that before we do this, we re-educate this new citizens or citizens of Palm Springs to have an understanding of what it means to not have an operating restriction in our agreement that we can no longer enforce anyway, and just to let them know about what type of service they can expect let them know again about our Part 150 program and that we are compliant. Most of our aircraft are Stage 3, very quiet engines, and from that, we will proceed.
I will take it upon myself to talk to 2 council members, so I know we'll hear that clearly, and kind of tighten it up a little bit, if you will. I think that will help.
Yes, to approve it on a condition such as Barry was mentioning,
Well-
would have made the most sense.
Yes, but you know, it was 11,
But then it's
15 at night, nobody was
Well,
clear
that's not so
who they were, where they were going. And I think it sort of fell through the cracks, Jerry. Personal opinion. Okay, any other,
No, sir.
okay. Added starters? Commissioner reports. John?
Kathy got out of here before I could mention this, but Kathy is also the foreign trade zone queen for the city. And in passing, she mentioned to me within the last month that the city was considering activating it itself. I would like to get Kathy over for our next meeting to tell us more about this, whether it has been or is being activated.
Let's find out from her before we get her on the schedule where that is and if it's worth talking about, okay? Sure.
Yeah, if I can, just prior to Christmas, one of the concessionaires had distributed some gifts. As you all know, we're not supposed to be getting gifts, and I thought we had made that a point to the concessionaires not to do that.
Well, yeah, and it's a larger part of their program, I think. We've always just turned around and donated, they're always toys.
Yeah,
Always
it's just we
donated
have a lot of
to
new
charity.
commissioners, and they need to know that's the
Yeah,
procedure.
and that's right. We don't accept gifts, even if they're $5 gifts. It's just better not to bother with it. So I turned mine over to my Rotary Club, and I guess it walked its way down. I blamed it for walking its way down. And I would recommend that you do that. I don't think it's part of their corporate culture to do that. I don't. They just like doing it. I don't know.
You're on their mailing list now.
Yeah. All right.
I have a question to ask, and I don't know what the procedure here is. On Sunday when I was here, I noticed that we have a lot of Marines that come in. And I happened to follow one to find out what the problem was. And there seems to be a widespread time element when the kids can get back to the base. And I'm looking at all these young kids, and my heart was with them. And I found out from Enterprise yesterday that they're pretty good with all these kids if they're 21 years of age and they have to go through a whole rigmarole, valid credit card, and they have IDs, et cetera, et cetera. So usually all the kids can get together to get a lift back there. And there were a number of kids that were sitting here trying to figure out how to get back home. And I think the time was like at 9 o'clock at night or later. And isn't there any way on the weekends that this thing could be maybe brought in more, that could be another extra time? Because it's quite sad to see these kids sit here all day long and they're wondering, I just felt sorry for them. And here they are, they're helping our country, and they were away for Christmas or New Year's, and they're getting back to the base.
And you're talking about the base bus.
Yes,
And that does run once a day, I believe, is correct.
but on the weekends, it's like it's late at night or something like that. Or there
We
was,
could just make a phone call up there and talk to the base transportation officer. Say, listen, you know, we understand that you don't have a lot of buses and you want to wait until you get all your people, but is there something we can do about double running it or something?
Especially on holidays.
Yeah, holidays, busy periods, maybe the weekends.
yeah, because I think what happened, they found a Marine taking his girlfriend back, and I think what they did, they all piled into his car to go up there. But if this didn't happen, they'd have been sitting here all day long, and it was just sad to see these
It is,
kids here.
And I would agree with that.
Just so you know, the TSA was very concerned about that as well, and they opened up their break room in the baggage claim area to allow those Marines to go in there and rest or get a bite to eat, to drink. And so we are trying to make it a little more comfortable for them. But we will call them and see if we can.
Thanks, sir.
With all our experience, why did the bids come in why are we rebidding some of the sound in it?
Yeah, I was surprised at that too.
With all our experience over the years of doing the sound work.
The sound installation, the bids were rejected by the council
Right.
because they were all over the estimate, and in fact, over the amount of the budget that we had. We did receive the new bids. We got those back. Unfortunately, right after that, we got a protest of the bid, and that's why it was pulled from the last council agenda. Still waiting on the city attorney to give us the answer on the protest before we can move forward.
I guess my question is, with all our experience, why was the bids over the estimate, or why was the estimate probably too low, or whatever?
I don't know specifically where it came out. There were some larger differences in the estimates of individual homes that were quite a bit higher than we thought. And I don't know if the contractors felt they missed something in the bid documents or they felt there was something unclear. When we averaged it out, we were actually right on, real close to our estimate of approximately $20,000 per house when we averaged it. But there were several individual homes that the bid numbers were higher, and we weren't sure why. We looked through the bid specs and we're trying to see if there's something unclear that the contractors didn't understand, and we couldn't find the specific reason, but we were surprised too. I wish we weren't in this.
How many bids did you get?
There were 2 bids.
That's probably reflected the market construction industry is really active right now.
Very much.
And also the fact that sound insulation contractors it's a specialized field. And one of the first goals when I was asked to take on the last phase of this is I did not want to destroy all the goodwill and public relations work that the previous 3 phases had done. A big key element in helping to assure that is to do a 2-step pre-qualification bid process, which we did. The bad part of that is that it's very specific, and there's some new guidelines from the state, and we're asking for, airport sound insulation experience. And on the West Coast, there's about 4 contractors that really specialize in that type of work. We got 2 of them to bid.
Unfortunately, the one that we've been using as well decided they could not bid on this particular phase, which also probably led to some of the problem.
For sure. Any other commissioner questions or reports? If not, the city council actions, you have a yellow page, I have a white page. They're published. If there's any questions, we can talk about them. We have correspondence. Nobody has written this? Oh, staff requests and reports.
We are hoping to give Mr. Snow his banner, so before you leave, you can
Please sign it.
the ends are right over there. Please sign it, it would be great.
For those of you who didn't get to his retirement party, it was a lot of fun. I have to give Al credit. We had Rob Parkins be the MC, and as you know, Rob Parkins is the master of short, quick speeches, and with one exception, every one of them was, and that exception was worthwhile. Al had a very, very wonderful speech himself. There was just a lot of genuine pleasure with everybody. So I would tell you that the party was fun. Those of us that went had a good time and lots of good food. Al and I both had 2 desserts, and it was great. Any other?
Yeah, just one other item is that after the meeting, there are some gifts that were given out to the guests that we have a few extras of that we'd like to give to the commission.
Okay, great. It was a very good party.
We can't accept those.
Larry, I think you deserve some.
These you can accept because they were totally separate.
All right. Meeting stands adjourned. We'll see you next week, next month.